physically, they didn't go up for many aerial duels. They didn't kind of stretch and playing in behind. I think it was straightforward for him, even though everything he did was brilliant. Now you've got a natural centre back in there with Ed Turns. And I think a big thing actually is it gives you that natural partnership of a right footer and a left footer. I know Richie's been keen to keep that throughout this season. I think when Happy came out, you always had Shadoji coming in, who again another left footer, and it allows you to play out from the back. So yeah, I think it's all about kind of forming a partnership now, and for today, and then also for the massive game next weekend against Stevenage, where you'd imagine these two are going to have to kind of form a partnership pretty quickly.
And let's look at Adam Thompson, because he was immense as well. Jordan Brown got the plaudits, but to come in after months on the sideline, Adam Thompson won every header, he won every challenge and kept another clean sheet. He's going to need to maybe help Ed through the game a little bit today, making his debut. Could be slightly nervous for the boy.
Yeah, I mean, one thing he's got is bags of experience, and I think that's shown coming off the back of a lengthy layoff to perform like he did last week and then to go again this week. I think experience for him is going to be key, and I think it's a good partnership for him to help the youngster through in his debut and in coming into league football. And I think Adam Thompson would do great, it'd be fine.
And it was good to see Thompson back out on the pitch, and of course, as you said, it kept another clean sheet. And a positive for Ed here is that he's coming into a very strong defence, a well-coached defence, and who've kept a lot of clean sheets.
Yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. I think we spoke about last week, and we spoke about Adam Thompson, how well he did, how well Jordan Brown did, despite not being a natural central defender, and Adam Thompson hasn't played barely for all season. But I think it's because of the structure that Richie Wellens has put in place. It's about the pressing from the front. It's about how the gaps in the midfield work. It's about Pratley pressing. You don't see us losing many chances, and I think we come into this game with an unbelievable home record defensively. I think it's gone slightly under the radar. I think it's over 750 minutes now since we conceded a home league goal, and that's 7 games, and I think the last time was October the 1st against Newport. So unbelievable record, and it's because of the foundations. Look, Happy and Beckles have been immense, but it's not all about them. It's about everything, the whole way this team is coached and how it's set up.
It's a ridiculous stat, and to have conceded in, I think we're right in saying 2 home games. We've only conceded in them 2 and 4 goals at home. The confidence playing here in front of the fans for the whole team, and especially the defenders, that you must feel that as a player.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you know you're immensely tight, you don't give much away, it just allows the attackers to have that freedom and express themselves, not having to worry too much, what's going on behind. And sometimes, especially when your defence is really solid, when you're an attacker and you get confidence from that, knowing that I can do this. If I lose the ball, I'm going to be covered at the back. I don't have to worry. I remember sometimes when I've played up front in the past, and if the defence is having one, it kind of could affect my game, because I'm just thinking, I'll get cheesed off if they've just made like a little error, and then I'll just be up at the top shouting back or something. But it can affect the attacking players. So when your defence is solid and it's going well, it does give the attackers confidence and more freedom.
I'm sure the fans will be giving Ed Turns lots of support today, and it's probably one of his first real tastes of men football. He's obviously played at a very good academy and an international level. But if we look at some of his clips here and some of his tackles, and he said in his interview, he's a defender first and foremost. And what are you expecting from Ed Turns?
Yeah, I think he's as good as a like-for-like replacement in terms of just the pure makeup of him that you're going to get for Dan Happy. In terms of he's left-footed, he's good at playing out from the back, but he is a natural defender first. He's quite big, he's 6'1", and as we're seeing from the clips here, loves the challenge. I love that interview, like you mentioned, where he said, I'm a defender first, but I've learned how to play out from the back. Normally, you kind of hear defenders, when they come in, and say, oh yeah, I can play out the back, I'm comfortable. I think he almost kind of was like, yeah, I've had to learn to play out from the back, but actually, I just love putting my foot in, I love putting my head in, and that's the kind of attitude you want from a young defender making their way in the game, because you'd think, is he going to be able to make the step up physically? He's going to be up against big physical strikers. But you see him from the clips here, you see him from his interview, he just loves to get stuck in. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do today.
And I think he even chips in with an assist there. Didn't manage to catch that one, but he loves a slide jabbo.
Yeah, he likes to slide into DMs, who knows. But no, he likes to slide. But I mean, you just hope that he's focused. He's going to be looked after by someone with vast experience next to him, and I'm looking forward to him. Excited, and it's often exciting when you come from sort of like playing sort of under 23s to step up into the man's game and have that experience, and I think he's going to be fully focused. And it's nice to see that he's a defender first, because sometimes when they come from sort of under 23s and so-called bigger clubs, it's about playing tippy-tappy. They're not really ready for the physicalness of the game, but the sounds of him, he's ready, he's up for the fight, and exactly what we need.
Hopefully he can slide into Barrow and win a few challenges early doors today. But let's look up the other end of the pitch now, and Theo Archibald with that little knock. Hopefully it isn't too serious, but he's a miss. Obviously, Charlie Kelman and Aaron Drinan have been switching over all season, but again, a shame to see him out. We've got Harry Smith and Nkrumah back on the bench, but when you've got some of the talent we've got, you feel like whoever you put out there, they'll click and probably score some goals.
Yeah, it is a big miss, Theo, particularly. I think a lot of our play, look, Paul Smith, probably player of the season so far, but Theo's pushed him close. I think having that dual threat kind of helps, because you teams can't deal with both of them. They can't create a plan to stop Theo and Paul Smith, so sometimes you have to sacrifice that, and one or the other does well. But an opportunity for Sotirio. I think he's probably not had the season he might have liked so far, especially coming on the back of last season. I think he was sensational once even, I think it was just straight after Kenny Jackett left. It was kind of Matt Harrold brought him in. He had a really good run of form. He's scoring goals from all sorts of angles, and that continued when Richie came in. But because of the new signings and a few injury issues, he probably hasn't had as much game time as he would have liked. Now's a chance to kind of prove his point. I think he's one of those players where if he gets a chance, he's going to take it, and that's what his strengths are. But I would quite like to see him get more involved in the general play and do some of the stuff that Theo Archibald does, which we might see today if he's playing out on that right wing, which I think he might be.
It will be interesting, because he obviously came on against Doncaster for Moncur, and his energy, I think, probably would be fair to say, changed that game.
Yeah, he was very good when he came on that number 10 position, and I think it was a formation change, but also his energy, it provided impact, and that's what you want to see from Raul Sotirio coming off the bench. You want to see him trying to put himself about, make an impact, because there's competition for places in this team, and he's more than good enough to be a top League 2 player. So it's time for him to show it.
Now we've also got Dan Nkrumah on the bench. He's obviously just had his loan extended at Welling, and then obviously the Drinan injury means he's been recalled. You know a thing or two about Orient strikers coming through the ranks, Jabbo. He's got an opportunity here if he does get called upon. It's an exciting one. Welling fans were gutted to see him recalled.
Yeah, I mean, he would have gained some vast experience being out at Welling, and by all accounts, he's been doing well out there. So for the gaffer to have the confidence to bring him back and say, you know what, there could be a chance for you, and I'm sure if he gets the opportunity, he's gonna take it this time, because it's like, especially at this stage of the season where it is vital, the goals are vital, the wins are really vital, and he could be the man if he gets the opportunity to lead the way.
And it's interesting because, as we said, Kelman and Drinan have been alternating really in that starting role. Charlie maybe hasn't scored as many goals as he would have liked in recent weeks, and you've got two strikers there looking to really prove a point, but maybe that might kick Kelman into gear, who knows? But you'd quite like one of our strikers to maybe score a few more goals in the next few games. I
think so, definitely. I think, don't get me wrong, I think Kelman's done a magnificent job, and Drinan. I think what they offer allows the other players to score and have the seasons they have, and sometimes they're always based on goals, but you do want to see your strikers scoring. And it leaves the question that the space is kind of open for Nkrumah or Harry Smith to come on and say, you know what, I'll play well, but I'm going to try and get some goals. And it does add the pressure. And as a forward, the position is a pressure position. Kelman will have that in the back of his mind. But I know the other guys on the bench would also have that in the back of their mind, thinking, if he doesn't score, I'm going to try. And if I score, I might start the next game.
And we've got to talk about Harry Smith very quickly, just because he obviously has been back training with the boys for a while now after he cut his loan short with Exeter, but he's an option to have on the bench. And maybe he didn't fit into Richie's plans for some reason or other, but he's an option. And there's been games this season where you would have liked to bring on a 6'5" guy who can win some headers. Yeah,
I think it's great to have him back. I think Jaden Wareham has gone back now, and because he wasn't probably getting the game time, I think Jaden Wareham's quite similar to Kelman and Drinan, maybe a bit more of a finisher, but very similar players. Harry Smith, completely different option. Like you say, games against Newport, Wimbledon, those games we were struggling and you just need something in the last 20 minutes, maybe need to go a bit more direct. What an option to have. I think back to Matt Harrold in the Champions winning season in the National League. Justin Edinburgh managed him so well in terms of, we just needed a goal, go plan B. Let's get Matt Harrold on. And I'd love Harry Smith to do a similar role from now on to the rest of the season. I'm sure he probably wants more than that. I'm sure he wants to start games. But for now, let's see if he can do that Matt Harrold role.
Well, we know he can score goals in a shirt for the O, so hopefully he'll be doing that again very shortly. And one man who will be desperate for some of his strikers to be getting goals is Richie Wellens, and we heard his thoughts ahead of the game as he spoke to Luke Lamborn.
Build on that against Barrow this weekend. Yeah, another, well, I wouldn't say outstanding performance, but a performance full of resilience and character. Another deserved clean sheet. Playing against a team that is in good form, won 3 out of 4, and we didn't concede a shot on our goal. We blocked a lot of shots. I think first half we give up a little bit too much territory, but I think in second half it was pretty dominant. So a good performance, back on track. Another home game now. We want to try and obviously kick on and continue our good form. Centre back was the big talking point, I guess, going into that game, but it added Thompson and Jordan Brown. They're very comfortable. Yeah, it's a really difficult one in terms of Tomo, who's lacked a lot of minutes this year with his injury problems, and then Jordan Brown's a midfield player. When the ball's in front of you constantly, he's actually quite comfortable from. He shifted across a lot of Doncaster's possessions in front of us. No one's in behind or crosses. So we expect a different test. I think Barrow are a good team. Some of their final third plays is some of the best in the league. I think Pete's got a really good team up there. So it's a different challenge this week. You said you wanted to make sure you got it right, bringing someone in. Ed Turns is that first name through the door, I guess, this January. Why was he the right one? No, I mean, but it's not just, we don't just make a sign just off a win. Steve Foster's watched Ed a lot, and his recommendations always come back really highly. I then went to watch a centre back at Liverpool on Sunday. Matt Harrold went and watched Ed and was very complimentary again. So we think that he's athletic. He's quite happy to leave space in behind and sprint. He's very good at the ball. So in terms of the way that we play, doesn't change. And today's training, an aerial really went up against Hamley Smith in training. An aerial, he's really good. So he's one that we've identified. We'll probably do another one because we want to be really secure in that area of the pitch, because of when he's keep 15, 16 clean sheets out of 25. It's a massive area. We want to keep that consistency, and so it comes part now with Tomo, and obviously Beckles are back in a few weeks, so we're looking pretty a lot stronger in the area.
Other 3 points today, please, Richie. But now let's take a look at who is standing in the way of those 3 points, and it is, of course, AFC Barrow. So let's take a look and see how the visiting side are lining up this afternoon. In goal for Barrow is number 1, Paul Farman. We have number 3, Patrick Bruff. Number 6, and the captain, Niall Canavan. Number 9, Billy Waters. 10, Josh Gordon. Number 13, Tom White. 14, Harrison Neal. Number 15, Robbie Gotts. 21, Tyrrell Warren. Number 25, ex-Orient Loney, George Ray. And number 34, Ben Whitfield. And on the bench for Barrow is Scott Maloney, Connor Brown, Elliot Newby, Josh Kay, Rory Feely and Richie Bennett. So a slightly smaller bench there as well for Barrow. Maybe they're struggling for some fitness with players or what? I'm not too sure. But it's if you look back to the game in the first half of the season, it was first versus second, and it was a challenge that we brushed off. But there's still going to be a tough opposition. They have been ever since their return to the Football League. Yeah,
they're a really good side, really well coached side. I think in Pete Wild, they've got one of the best managers in the division for me. I think he's done really well at Halifax, and now he's come into Barrow, and they're currently in the playoffs, which is probably above their expectations. So yeah, tough sides for us today. Play a bit different, might play into our hands a bit in terms of they're a bit more expansive. They're not just going to sit 10 behind the ball and go direct and be physical, and that might lead to a bit more of an open game at Brisbane Road than we're used to seeing.
We've got number 10, Josh Gordon, who is probably their main man, and he's a tricky striker that has got a few goals for himself today, and up against the new pairing, he'll be looking to get in behind and get a few goals.
Yeah, he's sharp, he's dynamic, got a bit of pace about him and ability on the ball. I watched them earlier in the season against Sutton, and I thought they were in attack. They're quite blistering, they're sharp. And they've got Billy Waters as well, who's I think scored 8 goals so far. So they carry a good threat between the two of them. They've got a few goals this season. I think we have to be really concentrated, because when they do get ahead of steam, they can be devastating. So we have to be on our game as well.
Well, we do, because it's an odd one. They've had a dip in form, especially since we played them, and they were up there with us. But their last game could have been a real confidence boost. And if we take a look at how that went for them against Mansfield again, who a strong team, and they 2 goals down, and then they showed some great character here.
Yeah, this game typifies them a bit. I think, as we're seeing, look, Mansfield, great side, probably not doing as well as they would have hoped this season, but under Nigel Clough, a lot of really good players for League Two, and a really tough place to go. And we're seeing here they started slowly. Barrow, they've conceded first in 7 of their last 10 games, and that kind of sets the tone that they're not great from the start. They struggle a bit to get going, and this was the case here. They went 2-0 down. But then, as we're going to see as it goes through, they showed great character to come back into it. And as Jabbo says, kind of when they click, they can be blistering, and that's massive.
And we're seeing some bits here. Just looking at the goals they've conceded first, Paul Farmer looks like a keeper who can be got at.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a few strikes in this game where, from distance, that he seems to parry back into sort of like the 6-yard space and not sort of pushing it wide like there, for example. If a striker's on his toes, he could come in, and so he can play on that and capitalise on a few longer shots and long range strikes. But I mean, they're posing a threat at times as they get going, and it was a cross strike shot hits or someone goes in. Don't know what that was, but it went in. But yeah, they're suddenly on the front foot. They're going for it. And they're dangerous, and they've got dynamic players that not necessarily big 6-foot guys up front, but they're short, dynamic with pace. And again, a bit of a mistake there, but he's aggressive, no hesitation. He's thinking, he's direct, and they want to get the shots off.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through their team sheet now. Like, there's so many attacking players. They are kind of a gung ho kind of team, and that's a danger for us, because so many sides, we're used to teams coming up here and being like top of the league, Orient are flying, let's just sit in. I don't think Barrow will do that today. I don't think they did it away from home, and again, that did play into our hands, but they've got that capability where all it takes is a couple of attacks that we don't defend well, and they could be flying and cause us real trouble.
On the flip side to that, though, as you said, even when we played them last time, they're a team that can be got at, and you see Paul Smith's goal where he's beat Farman at his near post as well, and the Orient boys, you wouldn't think, obviously we're top of the league, so we wouldn't think about any team, but especially there'd be no fear here. Yeah,
they'll give you opportunities because their fullbacks like to attack as well and leave spaces, so we can capitalise on that. And with sort of the likes of Sotirio back in the side, probably with a point to prove in a sense of some opportunity, and I hope he takes it because he's a really good player. He can exploit those spaces and be a real threat today.
Well, we've got just under 5 minutes until kick-off. So, of course, don't forget to head over, if you're watching on the YouTube, to head over to the Orient website to pick up your match streaming pass to watch along with us here on Orient Live. And, as Brendan's already mentioned, there's a massive fixture next week, and that's Stevenage away, first versus second. Hopefully, it's a little bit more entertaining than the last time we played them back just after Boxing Day. But tickets are sold out for that one. But international fans, you can watch along with us here on Orient Live, where we will be pitchside in Stevenage. So make sure you join us for that one. But before we hand over to our match commentary team, let's remind ourselves of how the O's are lining up this afternoon. In goal for Leyton Orient is number 22. It's safe hands, Lawrence Vigouroux. In at right back is number 2, Tom James. Starting in centre-back position is number 6, Adam Thompson. The little magic man, number 7, Paul Smith. Coming in for the injured Theo Archibald, number 10, Ruel Sotirio. We've got that perfect midfield three of 14, George Moncur, 15, Idris El Mazouni, and the skipper, number 18, Darren Pratley. And replacing Drynan, who's also picked up a knock, is number 23, Charlie Kelman. So he's leading the line this afternoon with number 32, Rob Hunt, in at left back. And partnering Adam Thompson, making his debut, number 43, Ed Turns. And a slightly fresh bench as well is Sam Sargent, Craig Clay, Harry Smith, Jordan Brown, Jaden Sweeney, Daniel Nkrumah, and Stephen Duke McKenna. How confident are you looking at that one then, Brendan?
It's a different lineup. There's a couple of changes which makes you slightly nervous, and like we said, Barrow could be anything, but you've always got to be confident in this Orient team. It doesn't really, it does matter about the personnel, but it doesn't make as much of a difference because of the way it's coached and the way we're set up, especially at home. So I'm quite confident, yes.
And as we touched on, it's a big game, and you want to hope that Stevenage don't do too well at Harrogate this afternoon and we manage to get all 3 points, but eyes will very quickly turn on to next Saturday's game, and this one feels like we need to keep that distance going into next Saturday's fixture as well.
I think so. The best we do today, then it takes the pressure a bit off next week's game. But you just have to focus on the game in hand today. And I think Barrow have to be at their best to stand a chance to beat us. And I think we just need to keep going. Don't do anything too gun-ho, too crazy. Just play ourselves into the game, and I'm sure we'll be fine.
Well, hopefully we'll be bringing you 3 points. And of course, don't forget to join us back here at halftime when we will be looking back over all of the action. But the atmosphere is building now here in E10, and the players are getting ready to make their way out onto the hallowed turf of Brisbane Road. There they are in the tunnel. So now it's time to hand over to our match commentary team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.